The Star Trek comic book we've all been waiting for has arrived today, so let's warp in and check out all the juicy details and the story it has to offer. Hey everyone, my name is Captain Jack and welcome to Trek Central. Today we're diving into issue 1 of IDW's Star Trek Picard Countdown comic book series. This comic ties in with the upcoming brand new show, Star Trek Picard. With this connecting, we're hoping it sets the scene or at least gives some backstory to the events which lead to the setting of the upcoming show, and most importantly the question we all need answering: why did Admiral Jean-Luc Picard leave Starfleet? If you want to pick up and read this comic for yourself, we've left some links in the video description below. Just a reminder, this video will contain spoilers, so you've been warned. The blurb of issue 1 reads as follows. You've seen the trailer, now witness the events leading to Star Trek Picard. Before he retired to his vineyard, Jean-Luc Picard was the most decorated admiral in Starfleet. Then one mission changed his life forever. The countdown starts here. Countdown is written by Kirsten Beer and Mike Johnson. Johnson's a well-known comic book author and has previously written a ton of Star Trek comic books over the last couple of years. Kirsten Beer, on the other hand, is actually a writer on the upcoming Star Trek Picard series. The fact she's writing the show and now also writing a comic for the series is fantastic, and I can hope it can lead to some great connective tissue between both. The beautiful art of this comic book is done by Angel Hernandez, which just springs to life on the page. I mean seriously, when you dive into this comic, the art is breathtaking. It's simply fantastic. Alright, let's get down to business and onto the first page. We start out of two Romulans standing in Picard's vineyard, and it's the year of 2386. It's 13 years before the events of Star Trek Picard are to take place. Now presumably these might be the two Romulans that eventually end up living and caring for Jean-Luc Picard in his older years. Previously we learned that Picard has two Romulan helpers who take care of him on the vineyard by basically cooking his meals and making sure he's safe. An interesting concept when we first heard of it, so maybe this sets it up. The main events of this comic are set in the year 2385, 1 year earlier, and the first images we see are of Mars and the Utopia Planitia shipyards. A familiar face surprised me in the comic, and that is of course Commander Geordi LaForge, who has been assigned with creating a new fleet for Starfleet. I have to say it's really cool seeing LaForge, who is now a full commander as well. I do hope he pops up inside Star Trek Picard at some point, but hey, we don't know yet. This new fleet obviously ties in with Star Trek Picard and Jean-Luc's rescue armada that he's meant to lead. The comic is serving as a point to set all of this up for us. It's nice to see the Next Generation characters still involved with Picard at this point in his life. I mean, it is only 6 years after the events of Star Trek Nemesis, so it does kind of make sense. We also get a really nice look at the uniforms of Starfleet during 2385, which looks like a cool mixture of the new uniforms we see in Picard, Voyager's uniform, and also the Enterprise jumpsuits. They look really cool and nicely complement the Admiral uniform that was unveiled at Destination Star Trek last month. LaForge's office contains some details you might miss if you're quickly reading through his comic, and I wouldn't blame you. A model of a Sovereign class starship can be seen on his desk. We could speculate this might be the USS Enterprise E, and another model is also seen on the desk, which we'll get into later. Now this is where things are starting to get more interesting, is when now Admiral Jean-Luc Picard hails LaForge. Picard is in command of a starship called the USS Verity, which appears to be an Odyssey-class starship. Yep, that's the very same class of ship that the USS Enterprise F is in the MMO Star Trek Online. Designed by ADMIRAL for the Design the Next Enterprise contest, even the bridge is the same as the one in-game, which is absolutely gorgeous and perhaps my favourite Star Trek bridge, and even my own personal favourite Enterprise maybe? Before we jump too far, this is obviously not a new Enterprise or the Enterprise F, to be specific, due to the ship's name being the USS Verity. It's interesting that the Odyssey class is used, as in Star Trek Online lore the ship did not come into service until around 2409, meanwhile it's here in 2385. Through Picard's conversation with LaForge, more story elements come into play. The Admiral's mission is taking place in Romulan space and it's all about the survival of the Romulan people. This now directly ties into the Romulan supernova that we've known as a plot point for the upcoming series. LaForge is working on a brand new fleet of relocation starships, while Admiral Picard has the task of getting the Romulan people across multiple colonies ready for relocation. I mean gee, the Federation is going all out here. We learn however that the Enterprise is still active with an unnamed stubborn captain. I wonder who that might be. Woof. As well as the USS Titan is still in service under the captaincy of William T. Riker, who has his wife, Deanna Troi Riker, on board with him. It's very interesting that Picard's ship is assigned to evacuate the Romulan people and it's called the USS Verity, with Verity being the state of being true and truthful when the comic remarks numerous times about the secrecy and untrustworthiness of the Romulan people. The comic makes several points about the Romulans not trusting the Federation or the repeated hiding of mission crucial information. If you're a long-time Star Trek fan, you know that Romulans almost cannot be trusted and are well known to lie, but I think this is nice that it's reasserting that fact. Even in the face of utter destruction, they're still hiding everything about themselves and not letting others help, even when they've accepted help. Interesting. Compared with the previous Countdown comic, which this supersedes, the Hobus Supernova seems like an event which can be planned for and counteracted if given enough planning. And with how it's taken the Romulans 4 years to accept help and allow worlds to be evacuated, it seems that the Romulan Empire's secrecy and isolationism will ultimately lead to their downfall. A common theme here that carries across some previous Countdown comic. Picard mentions that the Romulan supernova is still a year away at minimum, yet it feels like a racing clock. I mean, I can't blame him, it would be stressful for anyone. We also find out that Admiral Picard's first officer aboard the Verity is Lieutenant Commander Raffi Musica, the same Raffi whom we'll meet in Star Trek Picard and will be played by the actress Michelle Hurd. This explains that they have a history together, and it'll be interesting to see how this comic pans out before Picard releases, as something happens which affects their relationship between Jean-Luc and Raffi. We already see that they've got a very friendly relationship going on, with Raffi calling the Admiral by the nickname of JL, which suggests some sort of mutual friendship between them. After all we've seen of Jean-Luc Picard over the years, he's not usually one for nicknames and prefers being called by his rank. I'll always remember that deleted scene from Star Trek Nemesis where the new first officer, who wasn't actually caught in the film in the end, managed to call Picard by the name of Jean-Luc, and you can see the look Jean-Luc Picard gave the new first officer. Note how in one of the series trailers she mentions another top secret unauthorized mission. Now does Picard go against Starfleet orders in this comic book? We'll have to keep reading. Now the Verity arrives at a Romulan colony on Uyat Beta, where they're to assist with the evacuation of the Romulan colonists to a safer location. The Governor Shyanna and her Major Dominus Aethys seem to be much more trustworthy towards Picard. Shyanna even refers to Picard as Jean-Luc Picard, hero of the Federation, vanquisher of the traitor Shinzon, and now saviour of the Romulan people. It is very cool to see a reference to Shinzon, and it's interesting to see how his legacy is now described by the Romulan people after the past events of Star Trek Nemesis. It makes sense that this Romulan would consider Shinzon a traitor, as he murdered the entire Romulan Senate and tried to elevate to the position of the Remans. Not very good. As Picard wanders the city, he sees a Romulan vineyard and actually runs towards it. Even on distant planets there can be memories of home apparently. We certainly see Jean-Luc's love for a good vineyard here. However, instead of finding new winemaking techniques, he finds that there was a pre-existing native population on this Romulan colony, which are now used for manual labour tending to the vineyard. Picard sees that his mission is to save all sentient species and returns to the Governor, who reminds him that he's only here by the grave of the Romulan Senate and he has no power. Refusing to only relocate the Romulans, Governor Shyanna takes Picard under arrest and alludes to the fact that they'll take over his starship, the USS Verity, to evacuate the people of her colony. Our last page is of Picard in a prison cell doubting himself, and again the ticking clock that is the Hobus star going supernova. All his 4 years of work as trying to save the Romulan people might be for nothing. He believes that he's righteous in trying to not only save the Romulan people, but the natives on the planet as well, will doom everyone. Is it better to save one group at the expense of another? These are the questions Picard finds himself facing, alone, as the time before the Hobus star supernova ticks down. Now the ending of issue 1 really reminds me of the famous Star Trek phrase, the needs of the many outweigh the needs of the few. Realistically, the needs of the entire population of the planet outweigh the needs of the few Romulan people. Now we love the first issue of Star Trek Picard Countdown and can't wait to read its upcoming issue when we get towards Star Trek Picard itself. Kirsten and Mike have done a fantastic job with the story and Angel has absolutely come through with the art. I can't wait to see the new ships Geordi's been creating and where the story goes from here. Should you pick up this story for yourself? I would say so for sure. We can't say if this comic is required reading for the Star Trek Picard series just yet, but once we get past issue 2, which is due out in December, we'll be able to give you a clearer answer on that. Given that so far it appears to be adding more continuity to events referenced by the series trailers, leads me to say it might be worth reading if you have the time. Issue 2 of Countdown is out on December 18th next month. It's described as continuing the story of the Romulan colony, with the situation only getting worse. I hope we don't see the loss of the USS Verity, as I'm starting to like the ship, especially as it's an Odyssey-class starship. How did you find the first issue of Star Trek Picard Countdown? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments section, and where you think the story is going to take us in this series itself. If you want to keep up to date with the latest Star Trek news, lore and more, then make sure to subscribe to Trek Central here on YouTube. You can also visit our website, social media accounts, and even join our Discord server. All links are available via the description. For now, I've been Captain Jack, thank you for watching, and as always, live long and prosper.